Hi everyone, welcome back to Halloween Horrorfest 4 Listmaster. We are now into the second week of our horror movie list, and this week's category is found footage, which is a category that I personally am very, very excited about. But Josie's going to kick us off introducing this week's movies.
So on October 8th, we'll be watching Cloverfield, directed by Matt Reeves.
On October 9th, we're watching Record, or Rec, directed by Jaume Balagueró and Paco Plaza.
On October 10th, which is Theo's birthday, we'll be watching Lake Mungo, directed by Joel Anderson.
On October 11th, we're watching the all-time classic, Paranormal Activity, directed by Oren Peli.
On October 12th, we'll be watching As Above, So Below, directed by Erick Dowdle.
On October 13th, we'll be watching Ghostwatch, directed by Lesley Manning.
And on October 14th, our palate cleanser will be Trollhunter. I'm not going to attempt the original Norwegian name, directed by Øvredal.
Yeah, I'm very excited about all of these, but before we get to these movies, I think we should talk about the movie that is premiering, I believe, the day that this is being published, which is Home Alone, our palate cleanser, directed by Chris Columbus. Anything you want to talk about with regard to Home Alone, or to kind of recap our home invasion category?
I'm excited for Home Alone. I haven't watched it in a really long time, and I feel like it's definitely, I just remember it being very violent, like shockingly violent for a children's film.
Well, much like many of the other films in this category, and as I've said, I genuinely think Chris Columbus is taking inspiration from some of these movies.
Yes, so excited for that.
As all of them, except for The Last House on the Left, are after Home Alone, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, but excited, gonna make some frozen hot chocolates. It's gonna be great.
Awesome. Well, moving on to the week ahead, found footage. We're going to talk about, as normal, our favorite movies of the week. My favorite movie of this week is going to be what I think is the sleeper best movie of the entire list. One of my favorite horror movies that I've watched probably in the last couple of years. It's got to be Ghostwatch, directed by Lesley Manning. Ghostwatch is an absolute gem of a movie. It's one that not a lot of people know about because it was a direct-to-BBC movie. So it's only gotten a TV release. I think I was looking into this. There's only been one physical run of Ghostwatch ever produced, and then it almost never re-aired after the original airing of the show.
Because it went so poorly.
Because it went terribly. Because the concept of Ghostwatch is basically the classic War of the Worlds real fictional broadcast, where Ghostwatch was a pre-shot and pre-made horror movie about a BBC camera crew going into an allegedly haunted house to investigate on Halloween night. But it was broadcast as a live TV broadcast on Halloween night. And if you watch the movie, you will see they did a really, really, really good job of making it seem like a real live TV broadcast on the BBC, complete with live callers calling in and instant responses to those live callers, with interviews, cameras cutting out. It is a brilliantly conceived, shot, acted movie. And I genuinely think there are some shots in this that are like chilling. The way that they set them up and the way that the fake live TV format makes you kind of buy into them. It is very scary. There are like a couple points where it's very scary. Nothing to do with the glory hole, the unfortunately named glory hole.
Do you want to talk about how we came upon this film?
Yeah. Earlier this year, the movie Late Night with the Devil came out, starring, what's his name? David Dastmalchian? Is that it?
I believe so.
His last name is definitely Desmalkian. I'm just not remembering if his first name is David or not. But Late Night with the Devil came out, which we were very excited about. We watched it. It was a little bit of a letdown. Not that great. There is one good sequence having to do with worms. Other sequences are not as good. It's just not that interesting. And so we were a little bit let down by it. But we heard online that a lot of people were saying Ghostwatch was the better version of this. And I had heard about Ghostwatch before. And so we decided to check it out. And yeah, it's really, really good. It's on Shudder. I would highly recommend getting a trial just to check this movie out. But Josie, what's your favorite found footage movie on this list?
Well, you stole mine. I was going to choose Ghostwatch as well, but I'll choose, since I again have only seen a few on this list, I will sort of split my choice for different reasons. I like Mungo in terms of the actual structure of the film and how good it is, and I think Paranormal Activity as a series will have a warm place in my heart, because that is the series that was sort of my intro to horror back in my friend Maddie's basement when I was in high school. So that is middle school, high school, yeah. So that is kind of why I have a warm feeling toward it, not because I think it is such a good movie, but you watched it recently, so maybe you can talk more about it in a bit. But if we want to sort of start talking about Mungo first, I think that it feels very real, it could easily be an actual documentary, which is more than you can say for a lot of horror mockumentaries. And there is a sequence at the end that is horrifying for a lot of people. Did you find it horrifying when you saw it? Yeah, we didn't really have the reaction that I feel like I have seen on the internet and heard from people in real life too, but still,
yeah, I did not.
The idea is horrifying.
Right. I agree. I didn't especially find Mungo terrifying. It is, the quality of it is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
It is truly, I feel like you kind of have to pinch yourself a couple times watching it to be this is a fictional, fully scripted and acted movie, because it is so believable as some kind of true crime, real life documentary. I mean, keep in mind this thing came out in 2008. It is anticipating the direction of true crime documentaries years before that was the direction that they had taken. Clearly, this is pre Making a Murderer, I think, came out after this.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Maybe Only the Staircase and the Jinx wasn't out yet. This is groundbreaking as parody of something that isn't even to the point where this is ready to parody. It's crazy. It's so good. It's really, really well done. And I mean, I think that a lot of the movies in this list are just really well done. I think that this is a week of really strong movies. And coming off of last week where I kind of downplayed it, this is I think this is the week. Cloverfield is obviously a classic of the genre. I think widely regarded as a very good found footage movie. And it is. It's just really good. Record, so good. I watched it a few days ago, rewatched it. I had watched it a long time ago. I've also watched the American adaptation, which is very poor. But the original Spanish version is so good. It is just a non-stop, action-packed thrill ride. It picks up and starts running so fast, and it just escalates and escalates and escalates and escalates, and you're just ah. And the sound design in this movie is far and away the gold medal piece of the movie. The sound is so visceral and intense, and you can feel the weight of what's happening in every scene because it sounds so real and physical. it's just unbelievable. It's really, really well done. Quite well acted, I think, too. And just like, yeah, it's so intense. Lake Mungo, we just talked about, fantastic. Paranormal Activity, I think, honestly, maybe one of the weaker entries on this list. Still pretty good. I like Paranormal Activity. It is... I cannot get over the ugliness of their bedroom. Truly baffling. That is like... The whole movie is set in that bedroom, and it's just like the ugliest bedroom you've ever seen. It's just unbelievable that they couldn't do better. But if you look into the articles, Oren Peli turned his own house into the set for that movie. And he had been sleeping on a mattress on the floor in that bedroom because he was a single, like, early 20s dude who was like, I'm making movies. So you can, it makes a little bit more sense when you have that background, I feel like. But it is just such an ugly room. And if you pay attention during the movie, you will see there are 3 major rooms in the upstairs. All of them are bedrooms, despite this being a couple who lives together and sleeps in the one bedroom. They have used the other 2 as guest bedrooms. So if you ever decide to visit...
People visit a lot.
All the time. They need 2 guest bedrooms to be able to do this. It's very silly. There is a creepy fun fact about Paranormal Activity and our list specifically. A weird coincidence that occurred that I realized when I finished watching the movie last night. At the end of the movie, after the final sequence, which is kind of a poor ending, I will very clearly state. And I know there are 2 alternate endings. I haven't seen them. I don't know. But apparently they're like, some of them are better. But at the end of the main ending, I don't think this is a spoiler for anyone. You probably have seen Paranormal Activity. If you haven't, whatever, it's not going to surprise you. Mika, who is the male in the couple, gets like flung into the camera, and then he's like on the floor, and his possessed girlfriend like crawls over the top of him, and then it like fades out. And then there are like title cards because it's like true story, found footage. And the title cards explain the aftermath. And the aftermath is that Mika's body was discovered in his house on October 11th by police. This movie is on our list for October 11th. That is a complete coincidence. I had no idea. Just discovered that completely after the fact. But a fun, creepy event if you believe in the demons that exist in that movie. The demon Diane. I think the demon's name might be Diane. I was like kind of paying attention to that. It like spells something on a Ouija board at one point, and Mika's like trying to figure it out, but they only see it like after the fact, so you can just see like where it had traveled and what letters it had hit. It's very much like in National Treasure when he's trying to crack the code to get into the Declaration of Independence room, and they have to like look at the keyboard, and he can see all the buttons that he's pressed or that she's pressed, and he like gives it to Riley, and he's like trying to unscramble it, and he can't figure it out.
Yeah.
Do you remember what the code was?
Oh, it's is it Fort Knox, or is it different fort?
It's not Fort Knox. It's Valley Forge.
Valley Forge.
Valley Forge. Double L, double E. But Riley can't figure it out because he, isn't accounting for double letters. He's just entered every letter once. So it's a very similar thing where it's like we don't actually know what the board says. So it could be Diane, it could be Nadine. Who knows?
I think there's lore in the later movies, but it does get very muddy.
Oh yeah. I mean, Paranormal Activity, the ghost dimension. What's going on there? We're completely out of control at that point. I know. I've seen like bits and pieces of most of them, I think. There's like the marked ones, which I've seen bits of, and then
I haven't seen that.
There's like one where there's like a whole cult of like old people who live in like a weird apartment building. I don't know which one that is, but yeah. Anyway, that's enough for Paranormal Activity. We've already given it more than it's due.
Yes.
As Above, So Below, I think honestly the weakest entry on this list. Interestingly, I believe that this is the only major studio film of these 7. Cloverfield is Bad Robot, but that is like before the height of Bad Robot Pictures, so it's not quite major studio. As Above, So Below, I do believe is like maybe like Lionsgate or something. And it's good. I mean, people like it. Yeah, it's like about the catacombs under Paris, and people go down there, and then crazy stuff happens. It's fine. It's like a solid movie, but I don't think it's all that special. And then Trollhunter is a very fun one. It's a little bit on the scarier side for most of our palate cleansers, but it's not overtly scary, and the effects of the trolls are pretty fun, so I think that's fun. But yeah, I think that this is just a great list, and I think some things that really contribute to that, I know we're running very long at this point, but some things that contribute to it being so good and these movies being so good are the fact that they're shot on such tight budgets, and the like style of them leaves so much to the imagination. Like you just like can't put stuff in the shot, and you don't have the money to do the effects of monsters or ghosts or whatever it might be, and so you have to do it in like still images. And when you do a still image, you can really set it up well, using practical effects and like really structured to look very scary without having some kind of weird like computer generated sheen on it that I hate. So I think that that is very effective. And because these are tight budget wise, they also have to be very tight time wise, because they just don't have the time to shoot for extended periods, to be like editing and re-editing and doing all kinds of stuff. Sorry, Theo's messing with something. But all of these runtimes are wonderfully short, and I am a strong proponent that a movie should not be over 90 minutes unless there's a very good reason for it to be more than 90 minutes long. And so this category is absolutely in my wheelhouse. Our runtimes, if I go through them in order: Cloverfield, 85 minutes. Record, 78 minutes. That is an hour and 15 minutes long. That is like shorter than an episode of Succession. Amazing. Love it. Lake Mungo, 87 minutes. Paranormal Activity, 86 minutes. As Above, So Below, 93 minutes. And if you're accounting for credits, that's probably a sub 90 minute runtime. And Ghostwatch, 91 minutes. Trollhunter's a little bit longer, but it's kind of a little bit different. So I just love how tight they are. I feel like it forces, a lot of story to be left kind of unexplained, which I think is to the strength of most of these movies. And in many cases, when they are trying to explain more backstory, it's when the movies get weaker, I think. Cloverfield, when you try to like get a little bit more about the monster, I think it's just like, I don't need to know this. Record does a whole weird like exorcism, demon possession, mad scientist sequence at the end. It's just like, we did not need to do this at all. It doesn't even like connect well, so it's just like, what a waste at the end of this movie. Lake Mungo's fine. I don't think that gets... I mean, the story is like part of why it's so cool, is like the story is so beautifully told through like interview, and it's so good. So no critiques to Lake Mungo there. The writing on that one is great. But Paranormal Activity, like, yeah. I actually think Paranormal Activity keeps things pretty vague in a very effective way. They like bring in a psychic and they're like, what's going on? He's like, this is a demon. It's beyond my what I'm comfortable with. And he like refuses to help them. He's like, you need to call my colleague. And then they call him, and he's out of the country. And so they call the psychic back, and he comes back, steps into the house, and is like, I can't do this. And just is like, I have to leave right now. And then he leaves, and then that's it. So you learn nothing else. Mika has like a book about demons at one point, and is just like weird pictures of demons, but that's as far as it gets. That's all that's explained. I think that's pretty effective. I don't remember if you like learn what's going on in As Above, So Below, but I think it's just some like demonic stuff. It's like it's a Dante's Inferno kind of deal. They have to go down, and then at some point they like start coming back up. Yeah, I remember that now. They like crawl through like a tight space, and then it's like they're making their way back up out. So they go down like the 7 circles of hell, and then have to get out. And then Ghostwatch is like fully unexplained. There is no explanation to what's going on. It's just like abruptly over.
But there is lore. Like
lore?
Yeah. About the ghost.
Sure. Yeah. But it's never explained. There's like 3 or 4 possible explanations for like who exactly it is and like how all of it happened. And yeah, it kind of like spirals back in an effective way where you never kind of get a hold of it. It's like there's like the story from like 20 years ago, and then a story from like 60 years ago, and then like a story from like 100 years ago. And you're like, whoa, something's wrong with this house, but you never get like a super firm, clear explanation of it. And then it just kind of ends. Yeah. So yeah, I think just a very solid category. These are all good movies. Would highly recommend checking out as many of them as you can. But I think that the two that Josie and I have picked, Lake Mungo and Ghostwatch, are like ones that you've probably never heard of and are really, really good movies that you should check out. So if you have the opportunity, find a way to stream those. I know Ghostwatch is basically only available on Shudder, but it has been on Shudder for like months and months and months. So it seems to be a staple over there. So, you know, Shudder's always giving out free trials. You can find some way to stream Shudder for like free or very cheaply. So go check out Ghostwatch. For real. It's really, really good.
There are a few that almost made it onto the list that just didn't quite. And for me, one that I thought could be on the list is a worthwhile watch is Jaume Haunted Asylum. It takes so long to actually get to the asylum and the actual action. It's like literally like you could just skip the first 30 minutes of the movie, but then after that it is like actually compelling and well acted, and there are some genuinely like creepy images, especially like right toward the end. So that's one I would still recommend, even though it isn't on this week's list.
I haven't seen it, so I don't know. But my I think we already talked about Late Night with the Devil. We were really intending on putting that on the list, and we I think I kind of developed this category in fully planning on putting that one on here, and then it just was kind of a pretty severe letdown, and so we had to strike out for other options. But one that was on the list for a long time, and then I ended up cutting it out, I think, in favor of, I don't know, maybe Record, honestly. I think maybe I dropped it for Record, but it was Grave Encounters, which is I don't remember exactly which year, but I think aughts or like early 2010s, about some people who go into like an old state hospital.
So very similar premise to Jaume Haunted Asylum.
Mm-hmm. But it is a classic. I feel like I really liked it. This was one that I like remember watching in high school, being like, "Whoa, that was crazy! Like that was actually scary." It's not actually scary. The effects are pretty bad when there are effects, but there are a couple sequences that I think work pretty well, and it is fun to watch because it is a direct spoof of Ghost. What is it? What is the Zach Bagans show called? Ghost Adventures.
Yeah,
Ghost Adventures. Yeah, the show with Zach Bagans. Grave Encounters, obviously a parody title, and it is making fun of Ghost Adventures. So the lead like ghost hunter is very Zach Bagans-esque, and they like don't believe in any of it until stuff starts to happen, and then they're very scared that stuff is actually happening. I think if we're mentioning other movies, we obviously have to mention The Blair Witch Project, the greatest found footage movie ever made and one of the greatest horror movies ever made. An absolute classic. It's so good. I mean, The Blair Witch Project is my second favorite horror movie of all time. And I just love the entire story of it, just how it came about. I think we briefly talked about this in our emails in the very first year of Halloween Horrorfest. I think this was on the list in that first year. Mm-hmm. And we talked about it in the emails, but yeah, it is so good. Just every time I watch it, I'm blown away by how good that is. And that one is actually scary for real. I stand by it. The Blair Witch Project is genuinely scary beyond what any of the movies on this whole list can do. Blair Witch Project is scarier. It is truly a scary movie. So if you haven't seen that, you have to watch it. You can't watch any of these movies without seeing the Blair Witch Project. It basically invented the genre, and every found footage movie that came after it is absolutely trying to mimic what the Blair Witch Project was trying to achieve. A couple of these I think had ARGs, like alternate reality kind of game systems, where there was like a fake reality. Many of them had like a fake website. Cloverfield certainly did. I think Paranormal Activity kept up the ruse of, it used the actors' real names, which is a direct Blair Witch Project thing. Like the actors have their real names in the movie, and you pretend that they're real, and include police dates and whatever. Those are all Blair Witch Project things. So definitely a standard-setting movie, and one that you have to watch if you haven't seen it yet. But yeah, I think that does wrap us up this time. We really hope that you'll check out some of these movies, particularly Ghostwatch and Lake Mungo, if you have the opportunity. You can also check out, if this isn't enough found footage for you, remember that we've recommended Gonjiam Haunted Asylum, Grave Encounters, Late Night with the Devil. You can watch if you want. I don't care.
We don't recommend that one.
It's fine. It's not like atrocious. It was overhyped for sure. When it did the festival circuit, people were like, "This is an amazing movie," and it was like coming in with like nearly a 4 on Letterboxd, and like I watched it, it was like 2.5, not that good. So yeah, sorry, David Desmalkian, not your best work. I think that I still can't remember that movie's name. Vampire on the Ship.
Oh, the last voyage of the Demeter.
Voyage. Yeah, I kept thinking it was called Last Voyage of the Dawn Treader, and then I was like, nope, that is C.S. Lewis. That is Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So, it's not that. Last Voyage of the Demeter. That's a better David Desmalkian movie.
Yeah, also directed by the director of Trollhunter.
Andre Øvredal.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. What an industry.
Yeah.
Anyway, go check out our movies, and we will talk to you next week when we intro Trollhunter with a bit more specific discussion, and we list off what we like about our next category, haunted houses. So come back and check it out next week.